Hello and welcome to the last and final video in the lesser known Gruhabhedam series. This being the culminating video, I wanted to give an overview and bring together some of the concepts that I've talked about in my earlier videos in this series. So my apologies in advance if this seems to be overly pedantic. And also thank you in advance for those of you who are going to watch this till the end for indulging me in my self-indulgence. These are ideas that I've lived with for a very long time, and so I just need to get them out of my system. So this series, I've chosen to call it Lesser Known Gruhabhedams. So I want to talk about that title briefly. So let's talk about the word Gruhabhedam. Gruhabhedam, as we all understand, is the process by which the Adhara Shadja is moved to a different position, and the the positions of the other notes are kept fixed. And so you end up with a new raga in a new shruti. This is sometimes also called Shruti Bhedam. And, I won't go into the, fine details or distinction between Shruti Bhedam and Gruhabhedam. I think for all practical purposes, it's okay to call this Shruti Bhedam, but I am aware of, some people making a finer distinction there. But I just choose to use the word Gruhabhedam because if you take the literal meaning of the word Shruti Bhedam, it just means change of Shruti. Bhedam is change. So it just means change of Shruti. So going by the literal meaning of the term, that's not very accurate. It doesn't accurately capture what is happening in this phenomenon that we're talking about, where not only is the Shruti changing, but the ragam changes. So I think Gruhabhedam is a slightly more accurate term. There's also a difference in spelling. Some people spell it as grahabhedam with an A, Graha. Now, I don't know if this is just a transliteration difference or a terminological difference. I hope it's the former because, if it's just transliteration, that's fine because there is some, fluidity and flexibility there. But if it's a terminological difference, then I'm not sure. I think the right term is Gruhabhedam and not grahabhedam, because in Sanskrit, graha means planet, whereas gruha means home. And I think the term is Gruhabhedam because the sa is like your metaphorical home, right? That's where all the other notes reside. All the positions of the other notes get fixed relative to the sa. So a Gruhabhedam indicates that your gruham or the gruha is changing. The home note, your home base is changing. If you have any information on that, please do throw some light on that in the comments. I would be very grateful. Coming to the lesser known part of the title, of course, lesser known is a relative term, right? So I have only talked about cases of Gruhabhedam which are lesser known from my vantage point. What is lesser known to me may be very well known to you, so apologies if that's been the case. So having said that, let me dive into, I've put together a so-called typology of Gruhabhedams. So I can think of three major categories or types of Gruhabhedam. So the first type that I want to talk about is a scale-to-scale Gruhabhedam. What I mean here is, so a scalar ragam is one that is defined more by a linear or a monotonically increasing or decreasing pattern of notes, rather than a raga that is defined more by the prayogas or phrases, right? So, and another distinction I want to draw is between an active Gruhabhedam and a passive Gruhabhedam. These are, of course, my terms. And I also want to throw another disclaimer here that, I don't claim to be breaking any ground here. These are all like well-known and well-established ideas that have been beautifully implemented and elucidated on by, the great of greats. So I've just put together these ideas in a framework that makes sense to me. So anyway, an active Gruhabhedam, of course, that's my term. What I mean by that is a Gruhabhedam that is initiated by the composer, where the composer intentionally chooses to show the transition between one raga and another. Whereas a passive Gruhabhedam is one where there is no clear transition that is shown deliberately from one raga to another, but a listener might perceive an entire song to be in a raga that is different from the raga that was intended by the composer. So in my videos that I've done so far in the series, a lot of them in the first, I think all of them in the first set of 4 videos were in the passive category. So I started with Rageshri. And talking about Rageshri, a close cousin is Bhageshri. And I just realized recently that this very famous, old Tamil song, Nilave Ennidam, I think the common view is that it is in Bhageshri, but call me crazy, but I've never actually heard it in Bhageshri, and I just realized that recently. So, Nilave Ennidam Nerungade, நீ நினைக்கும் இடத்தில் நான் இல்லை na 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 na. So I hear it as gama pa sa sa ni sa ni da ni pa da pa da ni da pa ma da pa ma ga gama pa gama pa ga 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 ri gama gama ri ma ri sa ni ri ga ri sa ni da da pa da ni sa. Right, so again I hear it roughly as Kamaj, but if it were Bhageshri it would have to be Dani sa ma ma ga ma ga ri ri sa sa ri ga ri sa ni da dhani sa sa. So anyway, so the other ragas that I talked about in the first set of 4 were also in the passive category. So I'm a bit notorious for hearing songs in ragas that were not intended by the composer or ragas that were commonly perceived by other people. And a couple of years ago, I had a taste of my own medicine. I had composed a song and I intended it to be in a certain raga, but a number of friends asked me if it was something else. So this is what it was. It was, I was dabbling with composing something in the ghazal style. So it went something like this. हर तजुर्बे को तराजू में रखा, हिसाबों में उलझा रहा। हर तजुर्बे को तराजू में रखा, हिसाबों में उलझा रहा. So I was going for something like Varamu plus Hindolam. So with both the Daivatams. Sa ga ma da ni sa ga ma da 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 ni da sa ni da da ma ga sa. And Varamu is apparently called Sundar counts in Hindustani. So I was going for something like a Mishra Sundar counts with both the dhas. And a number of my friends asked me if this was actually jog or something close to jog, which is closer to Chalanate or Nate Chalanate family, right? So I leave it to you to figure out, which note, if you took it as sa in this Varamu with both dhas, will give you jog. But I just wanted to share that as an aside. And I'll share the link to this song in the description. So coming to active, a lot of the other examples that I talked about in the second series, I think fall under the active category. Here, I now want to talk about some other examples that I haven't talked about before. So one is this famous song, sangeethame deivame, and another one is ellorum sollum paattu. So let me talk about the second one, the ellorum sollum paattu first. This is from the film Marubadiyum, and somehow, I don't know if it's just me, I've never really given the song much attention before. I've heard it before, I've seen the film, but the other song became a lot more famous, right, from this movie, the one Nalam vara na 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 da 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 da. But this is another gem of a song that I paid attention to only recently, and the Gruhabhedam here is so lovely. It's so subtle, and it's like a lot of other cases of active Gruhabhedam is kind of in your face. It's very obvious, like the transition from Hindolam to Hamsanandi, for example. But here it's so subtly done. So let me just play part of the song and then I'll talk about it.
Ellorum sollum paattu solvele unnai paarthu medaye vaiyagam oru medaye veshame angellam verum veshame mothathil vandu koodum kinnodum naam koottaadum koottame.
So far what we've heard is Dharmavati, right? Na 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 sa sa pa da ni sa pa ma ga ri sa ri ga ma pa da pa pa ma ga ri sa ni ga ma ga ga sa ri ni sa ga ri sa ni da pa. So and then I'll go to the charanam. You see that transition? It's so smooth, right? Na 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 ni sa ri ma 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 pa da pa ma da pa pa. Right? That would be Dharmavati. But then it's more obviously Sarasangi, right? Because ga ma pa ni sa ri sa ni sa ni pa pa ma da pa ma ga re ga ma da pa da ni da pa ma re ga ma da pa da ni da pa ma ga ma pa ma ga ri sa. So there he comes back to Dharmavati. It's just so subtle and so beautifully done. So the other one, sangeethame en deivame, there the transition is from Rasikapriya to Maya Malavagaula. So here is the transition. So that's the Pallavi, and here, here this is a charanam. Pa 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 da ni sa ni da pa ma pa da pa ma da pa ma ga re ga ma pa. So essentially what is happening here is, if you take the ni of Rasikapriya as your sa, right? If you do ni da pa ma ga re sa ni sa ri ga ma pa da ni sa ni da pa ma ga re sa. So you get Maya Malavagaula. So anyway, so that's active versus passive. Another distinction that I like to draw is between a global Gruhabhedam and a local Gruhabhedam. What I mean is there are cases where the entire range of a raga is utilized in implementing the Gruhabhedam. And then there are, so that's what I call a global. And then there are cases where only a very small part or portion of the scale is used to do the Gruhabhedam. So, and within global, we can talk of two further types where you use the complete scale, the full range, and where you skip the sa and the pa. So the full range, the example would be what we just talked about, Rasikapriya to Maya Malavagola. Skipping the sa and pa, one example is Shubhapantuvarali to Hindolam. You can think of a number of examples. I mean, Todi to Mohanam, and that is also very common. So Shubhapantuvarali to Hindolam, it would be like this. Sa Sari ga ma pa da ni sa ni da pa ma ga re sa ni re ga ma da ni re ga sa ga ma da ni sa ni da ma ga sa. So you get Hindolam there. It's common practice, in a lot of Melakathas to sing skipping the sa and pa. It just adds to the beauty. That's regardless of whether you're doing Gruhabhedam. So in addition to that, if you change your Shadjam, you get interesting Gruhabhedam, you get interesting ragas that are pentatonic. From a heptatonic, from a 7-note scale, you get a 5-note scale. But in Hindustani, you couldn't do this because there exists a raga called Gujari Todi, that is Shubhapantuvarali minus pa. So if you omitted the pa, then you'll be changing the raga. So you couldn't do it there. So for instance, in Carnatic, we couldn't do it with Karaharapriya. Because if you remove the pa and Karaharapriya, you would be changing the raga, it would be Sri Ranjani. So this option is available in those ragas where omitting the pa is okay. It would still retain the identity of that raga. So, and the local, in one example of the local Gruhabhedam that I can think of is going from Simendra Madhyamam to Bauli. So, Re ga ma pa da ni sa ni da pa ma ga re sa pa ma pa da ni re da pa ma ga re sa ni da ni re ga ma pa da ni re ga ni da pa da ni da pa ma sa re ga pa ga ba da re sa ni da sa re ga pa. So that would be Bauli, right? But you cannot exploit the entire range of Simendra Madhyamam to show this because Simendra Madhyamam is Sampurna Ragam, 7-note ascent and descent, but Bauli is sa re ga pa da sa ni da pa ga re sa. So Audava, Shadava, right? 5 and 6 note. So you can only show it in a region, in a local region of Simendra Madhyamam. So the next big category that I want to talk about is scale to non-scale. So here you go from a linear raga with a linear scale, a linear monotonic progression of notes, to a non-scale, to a raga where it's the raga is defined more by the prayogas and maybe like non-standard, non-linear zigzag patterns. This is mostly active, I believe. It's mostly initiated by the musician. And it's necessarily local. You cannot have a one-to-one mapping of two complete scales. So one example that I've heard, that fits this category is from Shanmugapriya to Neelambari. So the clip I want to play is from an album by Vidushi Jayanti Kumaresh. It's an album called Mysterious Duality, and it's just a brilliant. Every track has veena as the only sound, so it's like multiple layers of veena. This track is in Shanmugapriya. I think it's called Wandering in Dimensions. So let me just play a part of it and then I'll talk about it. Just for context, that's the Shruti. Pa sa pa 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 da ma re ga sa re ni sa pa pa da ma. Padani gari gari ni, padani da padani, padani gari gari ni. So what you're doing here is padani gari sari gari ni re ni da pada. So ga ma pa sa ni da ni sa ni pa pa ni pa ma ga ma. So that would be Neelambari, right? And Neelambari is a very non-linear ragam. It's more based on the phrases and prayogams. So that was, scale to non-scale. And the third category is non-scale to non-scale. Lots of examples you can think of here. One example that I've talked about earlier is Natakurinji to Neelambari. Sindhu Bhairavi has a lot of scope for this. Different parts of Sindhu Bhairavi can map onto various ragas, Behag and Mohana Kalyani, Tilang. There's, of course, very celebrated Jati Swaram by Sri Lalgudi Jayaraman that showcases that so beautifully. So those would be, other examples in that category. So I think that was all I wanted to share. Thank you so much for keeping this going, for watching, for encouragement, for leaving comments. I've learned a lot through the process, through your comments, and just, talking out loud clarifies things for me. Thank you again for watching, and I just want to end by paying my deepest respects to all of the musicians that I've, talked about in the series, all of the, stalwarts who have shown so many different and a variety of such brilliant ways in which to execute this very intriguing and cerebral idea that is Gruhabhedam. Thank you.